Arcane is an animated action-adventure TV series from Riot Games. They had certainly outdone themselves in creating a show so riveting that it glued me to my chair, finishing all 9 episodes of this gem in one sitting. And I believe that most of you must have felt the same amazement I felt sitting through this emotional masterpiece of a TV series. These videos contain spoilers for the show, and if you haven't watched Arcane yet, please go watch it right now because you're missing out. And with all of that out of the way, let's get to the topic of this essay, that Jinx from Arcane is a beautifully flawed character. So let's hear me out. Before Jinx became the nutcase we all know and love, she was Powder. And in order to talk about Jinx's flaws, we need to talk about Powder. At a glance, Powder was just a sweet, bright child who, like most other younger folks in Zone, sought to prove herself to the world that she's something more. For example, we got Vi, who sought to prove that she deserved to earn a place in the world, that Zone's people are not lesser compared to the people from Piltover, and that they deserve more.
I grew up knowing I'm less than them, that my place is down there. I want Powder to have more than that, and I'm willing to fight for it.
Also, there's Victor, who wants to prove that he's not just a poor cripple from the Undercity.
Nobody's ever believed in me. Poor cripple from the Undercity. I was an outsider the moment I stepped foot in Piltover. I didn't have the benefits of a patron or a name. I simply believed in myself.
Then how about Powder? What does she want to prove? Well, she just wanted to prove that she's not just a child and that she could help. But we all know how that turned out. From a closer examination, we can see that Powder, like most characters in Arcane, it's three-dimensional with certain flaws. Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. To put it simply, Powder is mentally scarred as a child. From the result of her traumatic past, she suffered greatly from abandonment issues and PTSD. Her fear of being abandoned and codependency on Vi is so strong that the possibility of losing Vi caused her a mental breakdown. Powder just wanted to help, so in a desperate attempt to help and protect her beloved sister Vi, her good intention backfired as her makeshift monkey bomb killed Vander, Milo and Clagger. Vi clearly didn't take this too well and unleashed her anger on Powder and abandoned her. It is true that Powder jinxed everything. She was the one that kick-started the change of events that led to all of this mess in the first place. And the moment things seems to turn for the better, she caused everything to burn down to the ground. Literally. I felt like I was supposed to hate her for all of her flaws and the problems she's caused. But I just can't. And that's the beauty of it. Her flaws were written and executed so masterfully that you can't help but to sympathize with her. Each of her mental breakdowns just felt so real and impactful that you have to feel bad for her. The 3rd episode ended as Zuko found Powder alone by herself, abandoned, betrayed and broken. And Powder, in that moment, hurried into Silco's arm. Her worst nightmare had finally come true. The pain of being abandoned was so great for a child like her. She needed someone, anyone, to lean into just for a single scrap of comfort. And that someone, ironically, happened to be Silco. Then Powder, after all of the traumas she endured, under the guidance of Silco, became Jinx. But before I attempt to unpack the can of worms that are Jinx's flaws, I need to get you on the same page with me here. Say with me, Jinx is Powder, and Powder is Jinx. They are the same person. In Arcane, the way they phrase things when talking about Jinx and Powder makes it really easy for people to assume that they are not the same entity, and that maybe there's some kind of dissociative identity disorder at work.
Make her go away. Please. Send her on her way in. And you can have Powder back.
But I don't think that is the case here. Powder became Jinx. There is no going back. There's not a switch that can be flipped for Jinx to revert back to being Powder like they said in the show. What's done is done. Things that are broken are not that easy to mend. Back to Jinx, she is now described as a manic and impulsive criminal in Zone. She suffered from a complete lack of empathy, acting extremely selfish, disregarding other people's emotion as a result. Not only that, she now has a severe case of PTSD, unprocessed grief, and she's hearing voices of her dead loved one in her head. And sadly enough, being the adopted daughter of the show's main villain doesn't help either. I mean, the guy has the spirit. Silco genuinely loves Jinx, but you know that doesn't mean that he was a good father to her. He lied to Jinx about Vi, and this entire scene especially doesn't yell Father Year to me.
You need to let Powder die, so the fear of pain will no longer control you.
Sure, in any show, we tend to root for the good guys, whose actions are usually reasonable and they are fighting for a good cause. In Arcane, those are Vi, Caitlyn, Echo, Jace, and Victor. But Jinx, she's totally different. Her actions are selfish, self-absorbed, childish, and it went against every single thing the good guys are fighting for. And this is especially obvious at the end, when she was the only thing that stood between the diplomatic compromise of Piltover and Zone.
1,000 times I've imagined this moment. Never like this. All we ever wanted. The boy didn't even haggle. And what do I lose but problems? Oh, it all makes sense now, brother.
But then again, I cannot bring myself to hate her. She became this sort of a batshit crazy villain, wasn't by her own will, but a series of traumatic experiences. She was a victim of a dystopian society that shaped her that way. The more I wanted to hate her, the more I sympathized with her as a human being, and she just grew on me. The only character in Arcane that I absolutely hate to love. And that is when I realized Jinx is the most important character in Arcane. The role she played was the role of a catalyst, one that puts things in motion, forces changes for the better or worse. At the end of the series, after mistakenly shooting Silco and saw the terror on her sister's face, terrified of which her younger sister had become, Jinx realized things couldn't be the same between Vi and her anymore. All of that talk from before, saying she can go back as Powder, was just wishful thinking. Once again, history was repeated. She jinxed it all and destroyed the ones she loved. But this time, she's not Powder, she's Jinx. And Jinx did what Jinx does. With all of her hatred of herself, of Piltover, and the misery that she's experiencing, she aimed her rocket and shot it at the council in Piltover, thinking that it was what Silco would have wanted. This entire scene was extremely emotional and was the single perfect note to the end of the series. Jinx is flawed, but her flaws are so beautifully done that it makes her feel like a real person, and her very existence highlighted the very thin and delicate line keeping the dystopian world of Arcane at peace, where all it took was a single loose screw to set everything on fire. And that is the sinister beauty of it all.
What could have been